very interesting to me that I like this book, Atomic Habits. Interesting because it is it speaks to me to solve the problems that I actually encounter in my day-to-day life. Now, for instance, setting goals is an easy thing to do. This new year, everybody has new year resolutions, including me. Pursuing them, that's a whole other story. And so, reading this book actually highlights for me my challenging areas when it comes to pursuing dreams or goals or resolutions or intentions. And I'm glad that even as I share these lessons, I'm actually speaking to myself through the challenges that I'm going through, even in staying consistent with something like this podcast. Just because you enjoy something or really like something does not mean you automatically take to it. When I first started working out, I didn't like it. And now I really enjoy it and I look forward to it. And it's taken years to get to this point. So I think not liking something the first time round or finding something that you like but finding it to be challenging does not mean that that you will not adapt to it. I say that to introduce today's lesson, would I call it? Today's topic, rather, from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. The lesson says, or rather, the topic we shall be discussing is something that he shared that just stood out to me, especially this new year as we all go about pursuing our goals. He says, persevere through the plateau of latent potential. Now, persevere through the plateau of latent potential. What he means here is that when you start pursuing something, at first you are so enthusiastic to do it, and then at some point, and everybody who has tried to exercise knows what I'm talking about. At first, you start walking out, and then after 1 or 2 or 3 days, 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, you are like, no, this is not for me. I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't know what that's about, but there just comes that phase where you're like, no, I'm not even losing anything. Of course, you're not losing anything. First of all, probably your eating habits haven't changed. Probably you're still eating the same 3 times a day. But most importantly, your body has not adapted to this. Your body has not adapted to the exercise routine. It has not made adjustments to notice that, okay, I'm building muscle now. I need to let go of the fat. I need to tap into the fat reserves to burn energy and all those metabolism elements that go into losing weight. So I find most people giving up because the results are not seen. I remember the first time I tried to lose weight, I lost it after about 6 months. I wasn't putting in much effort, but I expected to see results so quickly. And I think we are like that with most things in life. When you start saving money, you kind of hope like by the end of the year you'll be a millionaire or something, like it will make a big dent. And we hope that it should, but that isn't always the case. With time, eventually it does, the power of compound interest. But it is not immediate. And that is why James Clear says, persevere through the plateau of latent potential. When you begin practicing a habit and you don't see any change, you have to persevere, because what James Clear says is that energy you're putting in, it's not being wasted. It's not being wasted. It's being preserved. It's being stored. It's just the same way you gain weight. At first, you don't notice it. The very first time you gain weight, you actually don't notice it. You may not notice it until possibly even the next year. You're suddenly like, how did I go from 40 kgs to 60 kgs? There is that moment where you do not notice what is happening, and it's the same thing when you start a new when you start a new habit, towards a goal you're pursuing, towards an intention you have, towards a resolution you have. You will not possibly notice any benefits immediately. Say you save 200 this week, and by the end of the month, let's say you have 1,000. You may get discouraged and say, oh, I only have this 1,000. How is it even helping me? But if you do that for 2 years, tell me how much you will have. Tell me how much you will have, because it may not be significant to another person, but to you, and compared to where you started from, it will be massive, and you will have achieved whatever goal you were saving towards. So your energy is not being wasted, it is being stored. Eventually there will be a breakthrough. And the power of compounding interest, and I've seen it myself when I started doing intermittent fasting and lifting weights. I didn't see much of a difference, but because of trying many things and just reaching a point where I was said, okay, I'm gonna stick with one thing, and that is all I'm gonna stick with. I stuck with that, and I am a witness to the power of compounding interest when it comes to habits. Because I stuck with it for 3 months, and it stacked up, and I ended up losing 25 kgs. So an overnight success. When someone sees me now, they say, "Oh, I don't recognize you. You seem to have gone. Last time I saw you, you were this size, and now you're this size." So the thought, or the theme of an overnight success is really about compounding your daily habits. It's about those daily habits that you do that compound. If you eat fries every day, by the end of the year, you surely will gain weight. If you decide that I'm just going to take healthy things. I'm going to take fruits. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat healthy. Then it surely will reflect on your health. if you think about something like a seed, I like the example that Jesus gives, a mustard seed and what it grows into. Could you have imagined that a seed can produce that? Nature is amazing. It shows us the power of compounding interest. You see a seed and see the fruits it produces. From that one seed, you have many other fruits that emerge. So how do you go about persevering through this phase of latent potential? James Clear says one of the things you can do is to have systems and not goals, which is one of the major themes in this books. In this book, to have systems and not goals. In other words, he's saying practice the universal law of detachment. Detach from the end goal and cultivate your daily behavior. And then you realize that once a behavior is entrenched, then the goal will reveal itself, the goal will achieve itself, so to speak. It's a lot like living in the present. It reminds me of those days when we used to study for exams, and then we would have the final exam in the final year. But you see, someone who has been reading daily and preparing for the exam, when that final exam comes in the final year, then they're able to do it comfortably because it's nothing new to them. And that is what he speaks about here, that once a behavior is entrenched, the goal will just come. So what he urges us to do is to forget about the goal. Yes, you should have the goal to have something to aim at. And in the back of your mind, the goal is there. And actually, it is the goal that determines the daily behaviors that you will adapt. What is encouraging essentially is to live in the present, to be in the present. Forget about that goal. Yes, it is the mark you're aiming for, and you need to have a mark. But forget about that goal and adapt the behaviors that will get you to that goal. So, for instance, you need to lose 25 kgs. Okay, that's fine. That's a nice goal to have. What are the steps you need to take to get to that? Perhaps you can say, I will go to the gym. Okay. So then you forget about the 25 kgs and you start developing the habit of going to the gym. Go to the gym. Go to the gym today. Go to the gym tomorrow. 15 minutes every day. Well, possibly 30 minutes because you would have to do your warm ups and cool downs, and the main exercise probably take you 30 minutes. Whichever amount of time you want to assign to it, but go to the gym today, tomorrow, the next day, and after a year, what will happen? Even if you have not lost weight, your body physically and your fitness levels will not be the same. You will have developed muscle, and your fitness levels and your health will have improved significantly. You don't know when the goal will come to be. You don't really know for sure when you lose the 25 kgs, and you can't really control it whether you'll even lose it. But you can't control the how, and that's what you should focus on. And that's why he says practice detachment from an end goal and just cultivate the behavior that goes towards achieving it. So embrace systems and not goals. And just realize that you can't harvest the same day as when you plant. Someone said that to me once, that you cannot harvest the same day that you planted. You cannot harvest the same day that you planted. No farmer plants maize today and harvests today. So you have to trust the process and go about the daily work. I really admire farmers because they don't focus on 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 the harvest. They just plant the seed and they do what they need to do in order to support the growth of the seed. They weed, they apply fertilizer, they go through all those processes, and they just trust the process. And at the end of the day, they have a harvest. Of course, there are other elements, external elements that play into it, but that is what they can control. They do what they can control, and then they leave the rest up to nature. So systems are those processes which eventually will lead you to your goals, will lead you to your results. But most people tend to focus on the results. Oh, I want to lose 25 kgs. I want to be rich. I want to have millions. I want to have a lovely marriage. I want to have this amount of profit by this year. And all that is good. At least it gives you a pointer. I want to be a writer. That is good. What can you control? You can control the fact that you go to the gym daily for 30 minutes. You should do aerobics if it's an exercise you enjoy, or you can go running. You can control the fact that you can eat right. You can eat fruits and vegetables, and you can lower your intake of junk. You can control the fact that you can this is when it comes to weight loss. You can control very many elements. And if you want to be rich and have millions, as I'm sure we all do, what are the things we can control? We can look at our careers and decide to go back to school to depending on our career trajectory and our companies. When we study our companies and see what can help us increase our salaries, we can go back to school in regards to that. Identify a course that will um, help us gain new skills, better skills, which will we can leverage then in the workplace to get a promotion. We can identify our talents and decide to nurture them, and by extension, harness them into business opportunities. We can set time aside to cultivate that which we think is going to help us make that money if it's a business. You can find a way to monetize the various resources around you, your talents, the things you own. There are things that you can do to work your way towards having those financial freedom, be it taking charge of your financial path in terms of investments and applying for promotions. So it's not a clear cut path, but it is doable because we live in a planet where other people have done it. If you want to have a loving, lifelong marriage, then you have to be intentional about going on dates. You have to be open to communicating, regardless of this and that, regardless of your emotional status at the moment. You have to be open to things like therapy, which scares a lot of people, especially in the African culture. And you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to calm your ego and be vulnerable with your partner. You have to be able to trust. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to forgive. All this within reason, obviously. If you both want to still work on that marriage, if you both want that loving, lifelong marriage, obviously it cannot be one sided. Everybody has to be in it to win it. If you want to be a writer, what is the thing you do? You write daily. You ask for feedback. So, incorporating, adapting, and embracing systems is the way to help us achieve our goals. It's the way to help us achieve our intentions and our resolutions, especially in this new year 2021. I'm a person that really likes the idea of vision boards. I really believe in them. I remember as children we used to look at family albums when you visit people, and I would see pictures of maybe like my uncles and their families in Mombasa posing. They've gone for a trip or they live there. And that was my first encounter with travel. And to this day, I think that looking at those albums planted a seed. It made me want to be that person that goes to Mombasa. And so, in a way, albums were our vision boards. But sometimes, if your goal is to get to Mombasa, is it enough to just stare at a picture of Mombasa or keep thinking about it? Or would it make more sense to take strides towards Mombasa? And with each stride toward Mombasa daily, won't you eventually get to Mombasa? So that is the thing with systems. Forget about goals and focus on the system. Set the goals for the direction, and then you now switch your mind to systems, because goals are there for your direction and systems are there for your progress. So you need to take those daily steps towards Mombasa, daily habits towards your goals. James Clear says something very interesting in this book. He says that everybody that competes in a marathon wants to win. But what is the difference between the winner and the rest? Because they all share a similar goal. The goal is there for all of them. Therefore, it cannot be that the goal is what made them win or lose, but rather the systems they embraced daily. So the difficulty is not in achieving a result or a goal, it is in maintaining what has now been acquired. Anybody can lose weight. There's so many things we've tried to lose weight. Sometimes I even think that many people can be millionaires. It's just that first time, because in a lot of ways we've many of us are able to make money. Not a lot of money, but we can think of a way of perhaps making 1 shilling. This, of course, I'm speaking as adults. They're also enterprising, teenagers who have made money. So you can think perhaps of a way of making 1 shilling. What is the difference in making 1 shilling and 1,000,000 shillings? After all, 1,000,000 shillings must have started with 1 shilling. So we do know how to make money. And perhaps we do know how to lose weight. But sometimes the difficulty is not in achieving that result. Sometimes you do lose the weight. You can even achieve that goal of weight loss. But it is in maintaining that which you have now acquired. And that's why systems are so helpful. Because if you have won a marathon once, you know the steps you took to win that marathon, and you can replicate them on an even grander scale to win another marathon. And that's why record breaking marathoners are always constantly breaking more records because they have already established the habits that got them to that first win. Now they are just improving their habits and replicating them across different stages with each marathon. So, as I stated, there are 1,000 ways to lose weight. The question is, can the systems you used to lose that weight be maintained? So, for instance, you decided to perhaps only take soup for an entire week and maybe you lost 10 kgs. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know if it can happen, but let's assume that's what happened. So, you decided to take the soup, and in a week you lost 10 kgs. But is that sustainable? Is that sustainable? Can you continue to eat soup for 365 days? What is your maintenance plan? Because if you go back to eating normal, then you will regain the weight. So that period of latent potential is also a time of preparation. It's a time for preparing you for maintenance. Once you achieve the goal, how will you continue being, maintaining what you have achieved? It reminds me a lot of the Israelites when they left Egypt and headed out to Canaan. They spent 40 years in a place where the two towns, the distance is walking distance is 7 days apparently. And they spent 40 years there. Why? It's not simply because they needed to appreciate Canaan. They also needed to learn maintenance, self-reliance. It was preparing them that when you get to the other side, it will be paradise because of what you've gone through here. Sometimes people go on a no sugar diet for a week. I've done it. And it does give you quick weight loss, extremely quick. Unfortunately, after a week, you resume it. and then you gain back everything. Then people say it never works. It does work. It's just the systems. Are they sustainable once you've achieved your goal? So you cannot change that result unless you change the system. And that's what, for instance, my weight loss taught me. My weight loss taught me that there are many ways to kill a cat, but which is the sustainable one for you? And for me, it eventually became intermittent fasting. That is the method that became sustainable for me. And I still practice it past my ideal weight loss because I know resuming past habits is detrimental. I will regain the weight, and it is a very flexible methodology to weight loss because as a famous intermittent fasting book says, it's simply about delaying the eating, not denying yourself. So basically, what James Clear says, or our takeaway from this topic, is not to solve the problems that we are having at result level. Not to say I will lose 20 kgs this year, but rather to solve these problems at system level. To say I won't eat dinner past 5 p.m. for this month, for next month, for this year. So fix your inputs to fix your outputs. That basically means that you fall in love with the process and trust that the process will get you to where you want to go. So trust the process, because a goal is a one-time achievement, but a system, those are daily practices that become lifelong behaviors. I hope you enjoyed today's input. That is all for today. Bye.